we have to endure this suffering. It is not that we are really abandoned, but we are sharing the suffering of Christ as he predicted. If the world hated me, so will they hate you. So we have to keep on and then find out where is the path of hope to restore ourselves and to bring back together the community of believers.
Welcome to Break the Silence, Age of the Church in Need's podcast exploring the persecuted church around the world. Age of the Church in Need is a charity that helps Christians wherever they are persecuted, suffering, or in serious pastoral need, working in more than 140 countries around the world. And I'm absolutely delighted to have with us here today as our guest Archbishop Linus Neli from Imphal Archdiocese in Manipur state in the northeast of India. If people know anything about Manipur, it's about the terrible riots that broke out in May 2023 that, according to the UK media and others in the West, saw clashes between the tribes. But as with many stories, it's far more complicated and far more nuanced than that. So thank you for being with us today, Your Grace.
Thank you.
And I wonder if perhaps you begin by telling us something about the background to Manipur, about the different tribal complexities, about the geopolitical situation, just briefly something about the complexities of the state.
Yeah, I'm happy to say that. Manipur is a small state of 22,234 square kilometers, but it is the home to more than 35 ethnic communities. And in the hills are the tribes. The tribal communities are more, while in the valley it is the Meitei Hindu community, now turned to Sanamahi, majority of them.
And Sanamahi is the traditional
Sanamahi is the traditional religion. Over the years, the valley, the Meitei's land, is actually a princely state. It was reigned by the king, and the king was quite conservative to external aggressions and all. But then his kingdom was evangelized by the Hindus in 18th century. Mm-hmm. And so he made Hinduism as the state religion, and whoever did not embrace this religion was considered to be the outcast group. So that is in his kingdom. And in the hills, the tribals, he did not disturb them much, but he did not even welcome as such. But he was very sensitive to the Christians' presence. The coming of Christianity was quite resisted. Mm-hmm. And whoever came as Christian missionaries, they were sent to the hills and the tribes. So the tribes are of two big communities called the Nagas and the Kukis. So Christians came to evangelize these two tribes. And Nagas have got many sub-tribes. Kukis also have got many sub-tribes. So in that way, Christianity spread in the hills and among the tribal communities. Whereas in the valley, the plain people, the Meiteis, they had long time ago experienced Hinduism. But over the years, in the last decade, quite many of this valley Meitei community also embraced Christianity. This disturbed the community, and the Hinduism was getting cracked up. And then the people had a longing for revival of their original religion.
Mm-hmm. That's the Sanamahi, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's how the disturbance within Meitei community also was there. And overall, the nation, the government, or in that Hinduism, mm-hmm. the Hindutva, the mindset of one nation, one religion, the whole of India, took a toll of it, and then the prevailing these people to go back not as Christians but go back as Sanamahism.
So there was pressure on people to leave Christianity.
Yeah. So this one was there. So there, actually, because of this, the Métis community were very restless and sort of, accommodating Christianity among themselves.
So while the tribal communities have been Christian for generations, the sort of Métis Christianity is a more recent phenomena. What, the last 10 years, last 20 years?
Yes, last 20 years, I would say. Yeah, it was much felt in the last 10 years.
And one of the tensions between the two communities, the Métis in the plains and the hills, has been this whole question of, I think, scheduled tribal status. Could you say a bit about that, please?
Yes. The Métis are considered as a general category, and then the scheduled tribes are a privileged group in the sense they are protected because they are undeveloped and backward community. So their land is protected, their rights also reserved. So they have got some opportunities to develop themselves. Whereas the Métis have their own, they are quite well-to-do people, and they are at power with the rest of India. So that is how it was going on well for years. But then things started when they felt a threat to themselves that they are losing their land and their population is getting decreased. And so they have a consciousness to expand their land, and that is the only way is also to reform land revenue system to grab the land of the tribals through legal system, which was resented and resisted by the tribal communities. So there was quite a long history of this tension was going on, and the Kukis and the Nagas were against this move. But the tension was where the Kukis have come from Myanmar side, and then they have occupied reserved forests, protected forests, which are allegedly to be like the Métis blame them as illegal migrants, immigrants. So that is what another resistance, and then the Kukis are blamed as narcotic terrorists cultivating poppy and sort of in the forest land, reserve forests and so on. So there was a tension. And the other group also, what we said is the Métis among themselves, they were trying to prevent themselves from becoming Christian. So they were also trying to resist and then suppress these Christian communities in the among the Métis itself. That is why, anyway, that is not the part of it. The tension is now the Kukis and then the Métis over land and over citizenship, illegal migration and occupation of the land and forest. And so that is as a burning situation, and both sides are well armed and in conflict with one another, killing several thousands. And in the process of it, the churches and establishments and the communities, both the Hindus and the Christians, they are suffering. But mostly the Christian communities also have suffered a lot, and loss of properties and churches' lives.
This, of course, takes us back to May 2023, where we saw that explosion of violence, almost unprecedented. It's a complex question, and I don't expect an easy answer to this. But from your perspective of somebody within the state, somebody senior within the church, what really was the cause of that explosion of violence?
The real thing on the day that exploded was the High Court had given a recommendation to the state to recommend the Métis community to become scheduled tribe. But at the same time, the tribes were fighting against that demand, and they were having a rally, a solidarity rally against this demand of the scheduled tribe status. So when this thing was going on, and then there was a place where the anger between the Métis and the Kukis erupted, When this one was communicated, then there's a fast communication. The media just erupted, and then in the valley, all the Kuki communities were hunted, and their houses were burned and torched, and they had to flee for cover in the schools, in army camps, and different places.
So what would the effect of the Métis getting scheduled tribal status have been? What would the tribal groups have lost if that had gone through?
If the Métis got the scheduled tribe, then they will have equal share of land and opportunities. And in the process, the tribal communities will be backseated because they have a majority and more seats in the assembly. They have more lawmakers, and they can absolutely prevail. So there was a threat to the tribal community, and they were resisting that share.
And of course, the tribal communities are a much poorer community than the Métis.
That's right.
And one of the most egregious things I think that we saw following the initial eruption of violence was a number of churches were attacked in something that was described as ethnic clashes. It seems a bit strange that actually at the centre of this, you've got church attacks and attacks on religion. Indeed, I understand in some cases, Métis Christians were told to burn their Bibles. Can you tell us a bit more about those specific attacks on Christianity that occurred?
That is a surprise also when it happened. But we know earlier that Métis among themselves, the Métis pastors, the Métis Christian leaders were also threatened. They used to get unknown calls, and then they were asked to reveal the number of their community members, and then where they were located and all that. That was a precedent to that. So they were quite disturbed. So when on that day, fatal day of 3rd of May, their churches were all burnt too. So that is burnt by the Métis themselves. But simultaneously, the Métis and the Kuki clash also began. So they wanted to kill each other, burn each other. So that's how they completely messed up with many stories, with many antagonistic attitude. The Métis in the Kuki areas also had to flee for protection. And the other side, so both sides were fleeing for protection.
But just to be clear, what you were saying is that in Métis majority areas, Métis were attacking churches.
Yes, it was in the beginning.
And that included Catholic churches, I presume?
Yeah, in the whole churches, they were attacking all these churches. But afterwards, this was suppressed because it became an ethnic in nature. So that story was suppressed. So they had a common clash as ethnic communities.
And can you describe some of the events that happened at some of the churches that were attacked? What sort of things happened?
Yeah, the churches, big churches were in flame, and all the statues smashed and broken down, and all the pews in the churches were put, like bonfire. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing was set aflame. And small churches were just destroyed, and the crosses smashed off like that. That the kind of destruction was there. And private homes were also identified, and they burned and vandalized, and properties, a lot of properties were lost. At the same time, also the Kukis in their area where the Métis were, their houses were also burned, mm-hmm. and 1 or 2 temples were also destroyed because it was a retaliation. Mm-hmm. You destroy mine and I destroy yours. So then afterwards, wherever they were dominating, then they took advantage of it and they started destroying.
And for example, St. Paul's Church, which I understand is quite close to the airport, my understanding is that this was a Métis majority area attacked by Métis, no other tribal areas there. How do we account for those sorts of attacks happening?
Yeah, it became an event, unfortunate event, and till today we have no explanation. Mm-hmm. What gave them this this inspiration to attack and this, that. But there was a little kind of volunteers who are trying to propagate the original religion and trying to come back to the old religion. So if they did not, then probably when the mob comes to power and takes control of the situation, they have had it. And then it's a targeted action towards the Christianity. It's very clear in that part of it.
But the church was also very active in caring for those who have been displaced from their homes, for those who ended up in camps. I know that ACN has supported a number of projects where the local church, Ninfeld Archdiocese, has taken the initiative to reach out to those people who were suffering. Can you tell me about a few of the projects?
The church, our diocese also took a lot out of initiative, not only by ourselves, but with the support, especially like Aid to the Church in Need and other organizations and dioceses. So we have helped the building of the houses and educating the children of the displaced people, because more than 60,000 are in the relief camp.
Still 60,000 in the camps?
Yeah, they are relief camp, and then there is no way to rehabilitate them, and because the peace has not returned. They cannot go back to their land. So, and then providing food, and then kind of counseling, and food and clothing, house, then livelihood, and all that, and the churches, and kind of the whatever is needed by the community at this time. So all logistics, practically whatever we could, the Church in Need also came forward to help in a very substantial manner. So I'm very grateful to that. And I became a bishop only just lately. So my predecessor had really felt this great support, and he was really very happy with that too. And I'm very proud of this moment to express our thanks and our gratitude to ACN.
I know when we were speaking earlier, you were describing some of the incredible stories of some of the people in the camps. I wonder if you just share a few of those stories just for the people watching the podcast.
Yeah, a few moments where we really feel that humanity is really suffering is a woman who was a village, a Catholic village, was totally chased away, and they had to run, their houses all burned. She gave birth in the forest. And then the child is almost 1 year plus. And then I saw in the church when I visited a burnt church, and it was after almost 1 month, everything was reduced to ashes. But among the ashes, I got the hand of the crucifix, the right hand. And then I searched for more, and then I looked at it, and then I found the head of the infant Jesus, which was supposed to be Mother Mary holding the child Jesus in her hand, and then the scepter. So I got the head of the infant Jesus and the right hand of the crucified Jesus. I connected it, and I was moved to tears. I couldn't bear it, because my Lord, from infancy, he suffered till the crucifixion. And we have to endure this suffering too. It is not that we are really abandoned, but we are sharing the suffering of Christ, as he predicted. If the world hated me, so will they hate you. So we have to keep on and then find out where is the path of hope to restore ourselves and to bring back together the community of believers to come and worship. The church is completely burnt, and we just go here and there, small halls and classrooms, and we gather for Sunday service. That these are the thing. If we narrate everything, then there's a lot of human tears and human suffering is brought about. But the hope in Christianity is not to be, distinguished. And it makes our hope and our faith stronger. I would take that way.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Your Grace. Thank you for sharing those fantastic stories. And thank you to everyone that's been watching this podcast as well. Please do follow us. Please do look at ACN on the social media. And do come back next time and hear what Aid to the Church in Need has got to say with our marvellous church partners who are experiencing hope as well as struggles within the worldwide church. Thank you very much.